Hi there, everyone. Thank you for being here again. I'm Alison Avila, one of curators and organizer of Loops.Expanded. We are international, brand new and international network of festivals and curators dedicated to explore this language, the loop, as a moving image language. And we are moving on with our conversations with the artists, for the time being, focusing on the work selected by Loops.Expanded team, then by me, my partner Edith Batsri, and the National Museum of Contemporary Art curator Emilia Tavares, to be exhibited here in Lisbon. And in this, let's say, episode, we have the pleasure of hosting Hasan Daraghmeh. And thank you, Hasan, for being here and for your time.
Thank you too, and thanks for hosting me, and thanks for the invitation to talk about my work. Really thankful for you for this.
Sure, it's our pleasure, and you have brought to us, at least in my opinion, a very strong, bold work called The Door. And let's begin by talking about this selected work. I know this is sometimes hard questions to be answered, but I'd like to start by asking you what's important for people to know about this work. How have you produced it, and what would you like to share when creating it? Because while you have a sequence of opening and closing doors in a very perfect setup, and creating a landscape through, let's say, architecture, I'd like to hear from you.
Oh yeah, I mean this work came mainly in the beginning of the time of the lockdown, and when the virus starts spreading in the world, and it's just in that time we're still having that feelings till now that everything is kind of limited in a way, and it led us in this kind of routine or being aware about the limitation where we are standing. We wake up in the morning in the same apartment. We are not like allowed that much to move outside because of this pandemic thing, and this kind of thing make us kind of feeling how much we are limited in the space. And at that time, I get to start to be very limited or like not moving a lot, except like coming from my house to the studio where I'm sitting now. And and it start drawing this one line track, let's say. And then I thought about it in a way which make me be aware a bit about, the small movements that we do it every day, but we don't think about it because you do it. After, maybe first time you think about it, but afterward you start being part of your habit, let's say. Mm-hmm. And then that's where the idea came, because the idea came from the door behind me. If you see, this is the door that you see in the work. Okay. I came to the studio and because of the general feeling, the atmosphere, things getting a bit controlled, and then you get affected by this kind of feelings in an individual and collective way. And then I start just like, okay, someone else opened the door, and then the sound start getting expanded inside my head. And then I thought about this just small movement. Okay, let's just like do something with it. I had to film myself opening the door and I close it, and then I worked on rearrange it together and build this kind of architecture through a moving image. image, or like throw the canvas of the sequence, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then see how these movements, or the same movement, which like it's less than 5 seconds, you know, and then if you put it together, what kind of feelings, imaginary concepts that comes out of this sequence to put it together, you know. And of course, there is a lot of metaphors behind the using of the door, because each culture have its own metaphors of about the door, and yeah, and it's a universal thing, and it's about hope. And I can say the work, it's about everything and about nothing at the same time, because for me it's a space where the audience can look at this work or this video and then have a conversation without me, because I'm there doing this repetition movement that everyone do it, but like to redesign it, or to put it in a different, or like in a canvas, and make the people thinking about every small habit that they have it in their life, you know. Yeah, that's kind of a general idea about, without like going to the details of
Sure.
of the work in itself. Yeah.
But it's always amazing to listen to any artist description of its own work, and that's just what's happened here. Because at least in my opinion, in despite of your concept, or the underlying narrative you are just sharing with us, at least in my opinion, your work seems to have a very how can I say, regular, constant, and serial, or stretched, or time stretching approach. We can see your interest in exploring and creating landscapes, or by putting images together, or tiny images to make a broader one, um, while exploring this idea of time and space. We can see this in the majority of our works, or language, when exhibited. Um, what have you pushed to opt for this way of creating moving images? The loop is a very present thing in almost the majority of our works.
Yeah, I mean, like, people, if they get the chance to see this work, which called The Door, it's one of the works that, I mean, this is one direction of my practice, because my practice have another kind of a different directions in a way. This is one direction. I have another ongoing research and a project which called Timescapes, and it comes from, like, I'm looking at the time as a landscape, which I take the movement of, or the illusion of the moving image to a different layer, which kind of like creating a new possibility of way of seeing the public space, the nature. I don't know, sometimes, yeah, public space, nature, and some other memory, let's say. That's kind of a different direction in my practice. And then I have a project which is ongoing project. Every time I do this project, which called Keep Going. And it's a very, very simple, basic. It's just like some of them looks like it's a long videos, but it's like 2-3 seconds. But because of the illusion of the movement, and it's designed to be a loop. Loop, I mean, like, or yeah, which you don't feel the cut or the rupture in between the end and the beginning.
Infinite
And that's
ones.
kind of, yeah, and that's kind of a circle way of thinking, which is like, in the circle, each starting point in itself, it's an end. That's how it's designed, and mostly it's a GIF format. And yeah, but just like to give the audience a bit about my practice and my background. I'm mainly working with moving image. I'm very interested in the medium in itself as a material, and this material have an infinity possibilities, which you can think through it, you can reshape it or rebuild it, and and give a possibility for the audience to experience the possibilities of the medium itself in a way. And mainly, like, as to come back to the work the door, usually I build things based on layers, and these kind of layers, it can match uh, a different audience. The most important thing for me, which I have tried to do it with the work the door, is I try to communicate with a wide like audience, or how much audience I can. Doesn't matter what kind of background, what kind of knowledge they have. If they have, let's say, they are interested in art or not interested in art, I wanna, communicate with them in a way and talk to them, or not me personally, but my work. And that's what I try to work on. It's the space in between me as an artist who produce artwork, but I don't have a control of it when it's like somewhere exhibited in a white cube museum or screening, and then the audience who came from a different background. If I try to work in the place in between, for whatever, you can talk about this work, and I don't know, you can bring Deleuze, Gilles Deleuze, you can bring Foucault and discuss it from there, from that place, and you can discuss it from a person who have office work. You go to the office, come back, have this, I don't know if I can say it, a normal track of life, but I want to communicate with this person in that layer, it's kind of putting the work in that kind of layers. It looks complicated, it looks simple in the same time, and the work try to talk about politics, and try to talk about economy, try to talk about social life, try to talk about everything, as I said in the beginning, and about nothing at the same time. You can just sit and look at it. If you don't want to, take it to any other conceptual or place.
Maybe it's the freedom. Let's say that the repetition or the loops idea tends to have this, let's say, philosophical approach where you can encapsulate lots of different things to express, just as you said. But it was interesting to me what you just said, which is it was like a deliberate effort to communicate with more people through a universal approach, let's say, with this specific work, the door. That's what I try to achieve. You can be functional, you can be inspiring, you can be provocative, depending on each people's background or psyche, let's say.
Yeah, but yeah, that's right. I mean, like, I'm not like producing work for a certain kind of audience. I try to open my language, or my artistic language, to wide as I can, which that kind of make the work talks by itself without needing me, to explain it at some point, and which is kind of give, like a canvas, which try to turn the audience as the artists themselves. They have their own colors throwing on this canvas and create their own way of thinking about, when they let's say react or like interact with the work itself. I'm not like sending this kind of one-way message. Try to open this message to the wide, you know, make it a bit wide and putting a space that people can meet the work and then try to create their own conversation, their own narrative on what they know about the door as a metaphor, or you know, because it's about like the movement of opening and closing, which is not just the door. It could be like something else, open, close, hope. You know,
it's
like
very
this kind
universal.
of, yeah, inside, outside. You know, yeah, that's why what I thought in that moment when I was sitting here in my studio, just taking the one shot from the door behind me and try to give it a different perspective or open it to different possibilities and context in a way.
And you can see these openness. You can see these openness also when you read your work synopsis. Just for instance, if you permit me to share the very beginning of the door synopsis, written by Jeremy Welsh. I guess he's based in Norway as well.
Yeah, he's one of my main advisor when I was studying, and he's really a great artist. And yeah, sometimes yeah, we do works together. That's very. I was so lucky that he wrote something about the work.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I was going to share. These openings can be felt when you start reading the synopsis Jeremy has written, and if you permit me to share with the audience, it begins like the process is the project, is the production, is the product of repetition, accumulation, and then erasure. Like a minimalist composition, we think we know where this is going, and part of the fascination is that we need to find out if our prediction is correct. I guess this couldn't be more open for interpretations and analogies. Just as you said about your intention, is I would say that it's crystal clear and very well translated by this introduction. What is interesting to me also, Hasan, is that you have at least for me, you have a very clear personal approach on the loop language or the loop idea or the repetition idea, and usually supported by the media itself. It's somewhat related to the idea of expanded film or expanded cinema. Why not? Which I'm pretty sure is also interesting to my partner Edith. She likes this approach a lot in her work as well. The idea of expanded film. But I'd like to hear from you these connections about expanded film or the media as the object itself, and what is the loop about for you? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
The loop. I feel like it could be like a technical way, which like something could have like beginning and an end, and then it will start from the beginning in a way. But for me, loop is everything around us in a way, in the way how we have our daily life. You know, we looping something in a very kind of in a very daily way, but we don't think about it because we think that things going maybe to a linear way of life, or like linear way of of rhythm, but which maybe it could be that the definition of repetition in a way. But for me, loop in the technical way is as I said, is a circle way of thinking. Is the place where when you produce a piece, for example, it's kind of doesn't have a rupture, because like if you come to this work, it could be like this work, mainly the door, it could be have this kind of loop, but you feel like there is something started, but without a bit of rupture. But for me is a way, like a circle way of thinking. It's the moment when you come in and you feel like this moment of starting is the same moment of ending. I don't know how much it's clear in the work, the door, but it's more clear in the other work or ongoing project. It's called Keep Going, which I'm very visible on, like physically. I just move and move and move and move, and there is no kind of a starting point and ending point on that kind of project. And I don't know if I have answered the question in a way, but
There's no
I
right
feel
or
like
wrong.
yeah, but anyway, but I try to just like explain how, or saying loud what I'm thinking about loop in a technical way, because it's or at least I try to visualize it, because people, they have different ideas about what it means loop, and they produce works under this kind of theme, and then they put it under another kind of theme. For example, if you exhibit a video, whatever, if it's like having the loop content inside it or designed to be loop, but exhibit it in a museum, and then it turned the people go into to see it, and the whole time it's on, so that's kind of the video, it's looping inside that kind of a space if we zoomed out a bit. And I'm not like discuss it in that level, rather than I try to make the loop visible in the work itself and how it's kind of designed in the work itself. I don't know how much I'm succeed on that in my works, but yeah, we will see. Most of the time, I'm just like experimenting and doing things which is loop repetition is part of the works in itself, kind of. And the most hard thing, I mean, like when I start working with this work, the door, is just to take it to another layer. I need to work on that, because I know technically how to do the loop in the image itself, but then to add another layer as a sound and to build the loop in the sound, that's for me was like the most challenging thing, because mainly I don't work a lot with sound. It's not like sound as like a main elements in my works, because a lot of projects that I have done, it's not, sound is not like included, or it's not part. So that was challenging thing to create this or to build this loop without a rupture in the sound. And yeah, and because the sound in this piece is very important, which create more an atmosphere and take you to the action more, and give you a different aspect and a different dimension to the work itself. Yeah, that was really challenging for me. Since I'm not expert in sound.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Hasan. And probably one of the most interesting things on regard of the loop, and that's why you are trying to jump on this and explore this per se through this project, is this: you have so many possibilities of exploring and explaining or experiencing this idea, being a technical approach, a philosophical one, a narrative related one. There's no clear or final answer on this. Even though this is a very old way of creating images, is the very beginning of moving images history, and is still relevant. And you are working with your ongoing project with the GIF format, which again are a reinterpretation of this. So thank you for that. I have two more questions. Please.
And related to this, because when I start really, which that was like 10 years ago, when I start being involved in art, because I came from a media study and political science, and I start getting interested more and more in depth to the medium itself. Of course, I get influenced a lot, and I still, of the Edward Mapdridge, with all of his early experiments with moving image with the horse and other things. And with ongoing project is kind of, using the whole advanced technology to bring it back to the beginning or the essence of the moving image, which is just layers and creating this illusion of movement. Of course, now things it's totally developed and digital cameras or either in analog, and they were like in the whole history of moving image and moving image and photography, a lot of experiment with the medium itself, and there were like a lot of examples which is really still alive. And when you see it, which happened like 100 years ago, and when you still see it, you get like, wow, this. I mean, like sometimes the medium itself, you try to push it, but you need to go back to the essence of it, where it's started. And that's why, for example, I'm very influenced with some of my project with, of course, Edward Mapdridge as the one who established the moving image. And of course, afterward, things getting developed in a different way, taking a different forms, like Lumiere with the cinema and blah, 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 and get it in a different forms. But of course, there's, if I want to talk about my influencing or like the people that I get influenced from, of course, one of them is Billy Viola. He's, for me, a very interesting and very like amazing artist for me. And I'm so lucky that, of course, like when I saw, for example, his piece, the swimming or like the pool, and he's jumping and all, that was like a revolutionary thing, and the way of seeing things. And of course, people now it's easy with a clone technique on you can do it, but at that time it was like something impressive. But anyway, the only comment that I haven't seen Billy Viola physically, his works, but I think soon I will have the chance to stand in front of his works because his works is now some of his works exhibited at the Stavanger Kunstmuseum, and that will be a good, like for me, a good chance. And the other thing that I'm having like a large scale solo exhibition in the same town, in the same period that he's exhibited at the Kunstmuseum. Yeah, that's for me something wow. Like I never thought that I will having an exhibition in the same town where Billy Viola he's having his own exhibition. Anyway, this is a bit like where I relate like part of my practice to. Of course, there is a lot of artists, a lot of people which I get influenced from during my process, my research, and yeah. Sorry. Now.
No. It's super. I'm just wondering because for me again, it's interesting to see your approach on this because, at least for me, there's a lot of expanded film or expanded cinema behind your creation, because as you said before, the media itself is part of your final sharing or presentation. The physical object and the thing, the process of having the image itself is then translated as the final result. And this is also a very perennial and contemporary way of exploring this idea of loop or repetition, of how to set up a moving image. But anyway, I just have two more questions to share with you. And the next one is probably one of the most obvious one you used to answer. Maybe I'm wrong. Because you were born in Palestine, if I understood right, and I don't know for how long have been living there, and now you're living in Norway. And I know this might be that type of obvious questions, but I'd like to ask you how these different contexts throughout your life have been somewhat an inspiration or a way of nurturing or pushing for your work, or even your transition for your previous background to your current work as an artist.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting question. And just like, because this is something that I haven't said in the beginning, I'm a Palestinian video artist and based in Norway. And I did my first two bachelor in Palestine. One was like in media studies and political science, and that was in Birzeit University, close to Ramallah. The other one was like a Bachelor of Fine Art at the Palestinian, like Art Academy Palestine, which was like a project collaboration with the Art Academy in Oslo, KIO. And I finished the second bachelor in 2014, and then I moved to Norway. So I have like almost 30 years of living in Palestine, and which this for me a very important experience. And then when I came to Norway, I did my first master at KIO, and then the second master, of course, at Trondheim Art Academy, which is NTNU, the Norwegian Science and Technology, the University, Norwegian University of Science and Technology. So yeah, I raised up in Palestine and that situation, and every time I expect this question because
I'm sorry, I told you it was that type of obvious question.
No, that's interesting question because I think it's very important. My practice is, I mean, it doesn't, let's say, things each place, you know, like being in Norway, you get from the art scene here because it's very rich, and you get like to meet people, having discussions from a different ways than you have discussions in Palestine, which not like here is, you know, it's not about comparing, but then you get affected by a different context, which of course that kind of influenced you, and it's kind of reshaping your practice. But either my previous works, which was before I moved to Norway, and it was very similar. Like I had this project which is related to cinema, which I try to, which is kind of similar to the Dore project, but in more advanced way, which is 5-channel video installation, and which I used the footage that I was filmed during 5 or more or less years. Anyway, I think like my practice, because from the beginning I know I have a line which I'm interested in the medium itself, and I'm when you read my statement, for example, for me is not about like the medium and the memory and how we can look at the memory through the digital era that we live in. So of course, my background is for me is like it's there in my practice with what I do now, you know. So yeah, and it have a political aspect, but not in the direct way. And that's what I said about the work, the door. It have this layer, but you need like to, you know, to take behind just the visual of the work itself. It's, as I said, it's about politics, about economy, about social life, about society, about everything and about nothing at the same time. And there where you create this kind of an open language, can communicate with others. But yeah, that's important. Of course, my memory there, it's very important material for me, of producing, whether I'm producing in a different country. But I have a sentence based on that, which is says political art sometimes is a bad art, and good art is political. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the right sentence or not, but
doesn't matter. It's yours, and I couldn't agree more, because again, we're just sharing and having a conversation. Yeah. Everything we do in the end tends to be political, and there are consequences. And with art couldn't be different at all, especially when you think the role art has or should have in your life and in society. But Hasan, just to finish, and what are you working with right now? And despite of the pandemic, do you have any exhibition planned for this year that we could share with the audience here?
Yes, I don't really work based on the topic of the pandemic, because my project it's going and my research it's going, and all the time I'm producing on the same kind of, or like on around the topics that I'm working with. And of course I get affected by the pandemic, but right now I have two exhibitions which is on. One it's in Bærum Kunsthall, and the two is in Norway, and the other one it's in Dockman Library in Oslo, and which is the door. It's projected there, and I think it will end in 14th of February. And the Kunsthall, the Trondheim, Bærum Kunsthall is the last day of the exhibition is 21st of this month, and which is a new work. It's called The River, and it's still not updated yet on my website, which I use totally a different technique. And of course, it's prints and video. It's 7 prints and 1 video. And I have some other upcoming exhibition. One will be in April, the same as I talked about Viola, in Stavanger, in a place called Rogaland Kunst Center. And then I have other solo exhibition here in Trondheim in the summer. And then in August, I have another solo exhibition. So I have a full program this year. And of course that I have a different kind of other projects. And then, yeah, I had a lot of things going on this year, I think, till the end of the year almost. The program is totally full, and some other things which are planned for 2020 and 2023. Yeah.
But it's excellent to know, and maybe you could include one more, because actually for the ones who's watching and probably, or maybe doesn't know it yet, the lockdown here in Portugal and the pandemic has led us to, unfortunately, postpone Hasan exhibition in Lisbon at the National Museum of Contemporary Art. And I'm sure, or at least I'm hopeful, that you have the opportunity to bring back your work, that are to be exhibited here right after the pandemic, in another circumstance, in another, maybe in a different location. And for sure you let not only this audience, but the people who follows Hasan's work or the Loops.Expanded project to know about it, about having this opportunity to see by themselves the final results we are talking about here today. Hasan, I don't know if you'd like to add something more to finish. Any other thoughts you'd like to share to finish our conversation?
I mean, I can just like thank you about this really nice conversation. It's very fruitful, and it's really nice to talk about the work and a bit about my practice. And yeah, because the people maybe, or the people who watch us, that maybe they don't know a lot about my practice, but of course they can go and visit my website or go visit my Instagram, because I post a lot of things on Instagram by using the frame of Instagram. And yeah, I'm so happy and so glad that I'm part of Loop.Expanded. Really, I felt so happy that I get accepted, which I noticed that I get accepted with other amazing artists, of course, and from a big amount of applicants, you know. And I was like, wow, that's really crazy. That's really amazing for me, you know.
It was the
And
very
I
same
want to
feeling
thank
for us.
you. Really, I want to thank you and thank the whole the curator team, or the curators behind Loop.Expanded, because I think this is really an amazing project.
Let me
Yeah,
tell you this. Let me tell you the same, not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of the whole curatorial team. Thank you as well for your work, for your art, and for your availability for this
thanks,
conversation.
thanks a lot, really.
Well, thank you for watching. You can check all the other conversations with the artists on our YouTube channel. Please keep following us, and there's more to come. Thank you for that, and we see you pretty soon. Thank you, Hasan. See you soon.
Thank you to
Thank you.
Zintek. Have a
Bye-bye.
nice evening, nice weekend.
You too, and you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.